Thanks for joining us for our session today at the CIO Summit around unlocking modernization with your content strategy. My name is Greg Wilson. I'm the Senior Director of Content Strategies for ASG Technologies within our North American division. And let's take a quick look at our agenda for today's session. So I'm going to start off talking about evolution that we're seeing here at ASG around the content industry with the customers that we work with. And then also, as we get involved with conversations with our clients around unlocking modernization within their documents and records, there's generally three tracks that come up over and over again. One is around regulatory compliance, the other operational excellence, and the third system modernization. So for today's session, I'll be digging into each of those with a little bit of detail for you. So as we think about the evolution of the content industry, I want to set the stage here on this because many of these items that we see here will come up within the three discussion topics that I'll be digging into. And I think it really shows some of the changes and evolutions that we're seeing over the last 2 to 3 years within the content industry, but many of these coming to fruition in 2020. Organizations want to address more than ever the fragmented and redundant IT systems and infrastructure that they have today. And a lot of this is being driven by the promise of the cloud as far as reducing cost of getting new solutions to market faster. And then also, I would say this year, we've really tied that into customer experience as well and trying to have the best customer experience possible for our customers. Secondly, unstructured content that is not properly identified and managed. So those documents and records throughout an organization that have very little metadata or no metadata that could be out on shared drives and SharePoint and Box and so forth. And what we're really seeing full force right now is e-discovery to be able to scan through documents and records, identify sensitive and personal information, and then how do we automate the governance around that with things like event-based retention, with redaction, encryption at rest, legal holds, and so forth. I would also say within that, we're seeing some really great operational gains for leveraging e-discovery on those documents and that data and information as well. And third is really manual and overgrown processes. As we sit down with end users within our clients that we work with, many of these organizations have had solutions in place for 5 or 10 years. That could be around ERPs, it could be around workflow and process flows. It can also just be around access of documents and records. What we see a lot of is, folks that work in these groups are taking documents, saving them out to shared drives, sharing them with other people within their organization and departments and business units, and also out in SharePoint as well. And what this has done is really slowed down these processes and kept them from being fully automated. Well, in walks machine learning, organizations that are really looking for quick wins with AI, and also solutions that have iterative approaches that we can get something up and running quickly, and then with low code and no code, make changes in and around that to augment and extend what's already there, rather than just going in and replacing these older solutions. With that, let's go ahead and dig into our first topic around compliance, right? So if we think about compliance, what really takes center stage here over the last couple of years is consumer privacy with GDPR and CCPA. And the right that consumers have to be forgotten with the data and information that organizations have on them. One question that comes up over and over again in conversations that I have is, what is my number one recommendation for a successful enterprise compliance project? And I'd say the real key word there is enterprise, right? Something that's large in scope. My number one recommendation for the audience that we have here today is to really consider executive sponsorship around larger compliance projects. And the reason for this is that executive sponsorship, I think, brings a level of clarity, more concise decision-making, and also really helps to prioritize where that focus should be. This helps to take these larger enterprise types of projects and phase them down into project scope and quick wins. And certainly we work with organizations around this front, but when I see organizations that also have the executive sponsor involved, it just really keeps that momentum going behind this. And if you think about it, until a few years ago, the main focus of the records management and compliance teams was really addressing paper documents for the most part, a little bit on electronic document side, and then within a few key systems, and then really defining governance policies. And even back then, it was very difficult to get those governance policies rolled out and in production where everybody was leveraging them. Well, in walks consumer privacy with GDPR and CCPA, and the whole world's flipped and been turned upside down. And there can be a large discrepancy between what that group has done in the past and what they're really responsible for today. with needing things like encryption at rest, tracking access to documents, better tracking redaction of which data is viewed or not viewed, and then also, how long to maintain documents and records across systems within the enterprise, not even to mention the shared drives and SharePoints of the world and the documents that are out there. So I would say that that's a recommendation to think about it from executive sponsorship. I would also add that the two places that I recommend targeting is start with those two top applications that maintain most of your customer data. If that's the CRM, if that's your ERP, if you've got other large document repositories as well. And once you've identified those two systems, look at your legal hold process and what you're doing today. What we generally find is they're very mired in manual processes that can really be automated and much more streamlined. We've worked with many organizations, an investment firm comes to mind that had 10 full-time employees that were just handling that legal hold process of extracting and pulling documents out of various systems and then trying to manually maintain those in shared drives. With a solution like Mobius that we put in place for them, we got them down to 2 part-time employees that are now tracking and working on that. The second focus, outside of those 2 key applications and the legal hold process, would be shared drives. I think getting a good feel for where you guys are today with, first off, how are you discovering sensitive information and what tools are you using there? And then also, how are you taking action on that? Because the first step of the process is just finding where those documents are, but it can also be very difficult to then get the governance services applied around that, the things that I'd mentioned, around encryption at rest, around event-based retention, of being able to take customer and consumer requests and know that you're handling those documents properly. There's some huge gains there and good wins around that. So the next couple of slides, we'll just look at a build around privacy-aware governance that I just mentioned. First, let's get aware of where that privacy information resides and then take action on that, right? So first off, with Mobius and ASG and the solution we have in place, there's a multitude of sources that we can hit, from shared drives and SharePoint to documents already within our Mobius system, other content systems, as well as data sources like databases and data lakes. From here, we're able to scan and discover where that sensitive information resides. We can correlate information from different documents to start classifying which documents are alike and how much alike are they, so that we can find out, oh, well, this is obviously an application, this is an invoice, this is a signature card, let's say for a bank, financial services company. And then we can also identify duplicate and redundant records of which of those could be deleted. And then realizing that there's that need within any discovery solution for continuous management, because there's going to be new documents and records added into shared drives or Mobius or any of these sources day in and day out over time. So it really is an iterative approach there. From here, we're able to offer a full solution that also takes action on this. So migrating the documents that have sensitive information into a solution like Mobius so that you can have records management capabilities with legal holds and retention schedules, workflow approval processes for deleting or changing retentions, and then also having encryption at rest, as well as other actions that can be taken around storing those records as needed. So if we pop down into our next topic around operational excellence, as I mentioned earlier, the idea here isn't always about ripping and replacing. A lot of times the organizations that we're working with are looking for quick wins. So how do I augment, extend, and streamline what we're doing today for our end users and for those customer experiences? And a question that comes up over and over again here is, which systems and business units and processes would ASG recommend targeting first to really see these operational gains? And I see this going 2 routes. And I think certainly within the COVID environment that we're in, customer service and satisfaction is goal 1. So I think taking a look at that customer journey, finding out where there's gaps and inconsistencies and inefficiencies that can be addressed there. We're currently working with a major rental car company around that user experience of what's available on their mobile devices, so that we're starting to unify 5 or 6 different core systems, so it appears to the customer on their mobile device that everything is coming from one system and very unified. So whether they are looking for their next rental that's coming up, or they're trying to pull up receipts and expenses from the last 5 or 6 rentals that they've done, if they want to update their preferences, if maybe they went through a claim and they want up-to-date information on exactly where that claim is and the next steps in the process, all of that is available through the mobile device with the project that we're now working on around that. The other route that I would say, thinking about where to target, above and beyond customer service and the customer journey around unified search and federation would be finance and accounting. And we're seeing huge gains here for organizations that, a lot of what they're doing today is requiring about 80% of those end users' time to be focused on data prep rather than actual being able to go in and investigate issues and do research. We have an audit and analytics services component to our platform that offers some huge gains here for organizations that are leveraging SAP for their finance and accounting or other systems, and how they go through and manage those daily, weekly, monthly reconciliation processes. And we've seen where organizations have been able to really find those write-offs that have been happening in the organization for years that they just couldn't get to the granular detail to identify where those were occurring at. We also see organizations that are able to move into a much brisker pace of getting to reconciliation around that. The next couple build slides will touch a little bit on that operational excellence from a unified access perspective. So if you think about it, a typical organization is probably going to have anywhere from 2 to 5 or more ECMs and imaging systems that an end user is accessing. They're also going to be accessing a number of ERPs and line of business applications for real-time information. And most also have collaboration systems that have grown over, around, and on top of these with 365 and SharePoint and Box and others. This really leaves the knowledge workers' heads spinning with how many different systems they need to log into, indexing structures they need to know, and just trying to understand where these documents reside. With Mobius, we're able to offer a unified search here that can pinpoint exactly the information they're looking for, retrieve all this information into one hit list, and then allow them to either view or download or extract those documents and whatever makes the most sense for them. We see about a 40 to 70% increase in end user productivity, which is in line with analyst studies that have been done around this as well with Forrester and Gartner and others. So some huge gains here in operational excellence by having a unified access across these disparate systems. And the third topic that we're going to discuss, and our last topic here, is around system modernization and how to address IT debt and leverage the cloud within your organization that's going to make the most sense for you, right? A couple of questions that I get around this that come up is, first off, how have consolidation and cloud migration projects evolved for ASG with our Mobius platform? And I would say what I've seen is we've certainly advanced from a cloud-friendly solution to a cloud-native solution with our Mobius platform, taking advantage of services that are on AWS and Azure like autoscaling and others, really incorporating Docker and Kubernetes, and also moving just from having, let's say, physical devices like Snowball, where everything needed to be downloaded and put on those devices and then shipped to, let's say, a data center at Amazon, where now we're able to handle all of that through S3 capabilities. But if I back up a step, I think probably the most important and significant evolution has really been bringing flexibility into cloud solutions. With Mobius, we offer a hybrid cloud environment. Our repositories on-prem and our viewing clients on-prem can talk to our repositories and viewing clients and other services that are running in the cloud. So it really is a unified experience, and it allows customers to only move to the cloud the documents and records that make the most sense for them. And if in the future your compliance and governance team decide that there's documents and records in the cloud that they're more comfortable having on-prem, those can be moved back. It also sets us up for great flexibility with multi-cloud scenarios as well. And I think a really great question around this too is just how do we differentiate ourselves in a crowded market? One thing I would say that makes Mobius very different within the content services space is everything that we have around this platform has really been built in-house. There has been a little bit of acquisition, but those acquisitions were really happening more with a toolkit that we've built out over years into the overall solution. So you really have a single platform that was designed to work together, which allows you to get the system up and running very quickly, a very unified approach to how we administer the system, and then also very easy to roll out into complex environments on a global scale, on-prem, cloud, multi-cloud, and so forth. Which also just really speaks to the performance that we have with the system with archive retrieval and great flexibility. This slide really represents that idea of modernization, of building on what we had from the last slide with just federation, where we now can migrate, we can federate, and we can govern across multiple sources pulling information into Mobius when it makes sense, or governing that information from where it resides today with things like federated redaction. We can also capture and form e-discovery on paper documents and information that's on shared drives, and then make this available within the Mobius platform, either running on-prem and cloud, and passing it back and forth in a way that makes the most sense for your company. So a little background on ASG Technologies. We'll be celebrating 40 years in business next year. Our mission is really around providing information management to our customers with flexible, high-performing, and modern solutions, and we're leveraged by over 70% of the Fortune 500. So thanks so much for your time within our session here today. I hope that you found the material interesting and useful. And now we'll be moving into the Q&A part of our discussion here. So if you have any questions for me around the topics and things that we've walked through, please feel free to chime in.